How's it going, everyone? You're watching Benko Reviews, and today I'm bringing you the HTC One review. So let's go ahead and see if this HTC flagship phone will bring them back into the market. Starting out with the design of this phone, looking around it, you can see on the front there's your 4.7-inch 1080p display, which we'll get more into later. So on the back you can see that there's just a total full metal body, and you probably also noticed on the front with the speaker grills that it is all metal. This whole metal body is a whole unibody design, and it feels just really great. Feels really nice in the hand. It also has a curved back for one-handed holding. The HTC really did a good job on the design of this phone. It just feels really sturdy, really slick. So looking around on the front, you have your display with your home and back buttons. You double tap the home for multitasking. On the top you have your 2.1 megapixel camera for video chats and front-facing photos. You also have a few sensors over here and your top-facing speaker. On the bottom you have your micro USB and a microphone port. And you also have the second boom sound speaker. On the right-hand side, your volume rocker is right there. It looks pretty flashy, and it's fairly easy to push down. On the top you have your IR blaster built into the power button, and you have a 3.5mm headphone jack. So on the left hand side you have your SIM slot, and that is basically the phone. But also on the back you have your 4 megapixel or 4 ultra pixel camera, which is the HTC main ultra pixel camera, and it's basically 4 megapixel camera with HTC's own image sensing chip on the inside. Beats audio is also built into this phone, which we will discuss later. But overall, this phone is really well designed. It feels really great in the hand, and it's also pretty nice for one-handed use. Even with a 4.7-inch screen, it just feels really sturdy in the hand, and the design is amazing. Now moving on to the specs of this phone, the tech specs that is, it has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 600 1.7 GHz quad-core processor inside this phone. Now that is some serious computing power, and that is basically what allows you to run so smoothly with the HTC Sense UI. So that is just really buttery smooth with that great processor inside of it. It's a really good chip, and it's also running inside 2 GB of RAM, which helps keep multitasking fine on this phone. And it also, in the back, has a 2300 milliamp hour battery to keep you powered throughout the day. And it does last all day with pretty good usage, some texting, some internet usage, a bit of camera, and a lot of YouTube videos. It also does have NFC and Bluetooth 4.0. And to show how future-proof this phone is, it has 802.11a and AC Wi-Fi, which barely any routers nowadays even use that standard. So this phone is really future-proof for you with their specs. Moving on to the software side, this phone is rocking HTC Sense 5 skin on top of Android 4.1 Jelly Bean, which HTC Sense has been around for a long time. You probably would recognize it through the clock widget, but also the main new thing of this phone is that the HTC Blink feed. So quickly into the lock screen, you can already see that clock that you recognize from Blink feed, and you unlock it and you're right entered into Blink feed. It's your main home screen whether you like it or not, and what it is, it displays news from whatever you follow. I have CNET showed up on here just for an example, but you can also have Facebook, Twitter, or a mix of everything you really want. But you can also just go back to your regular home screens, but you cannot get rid of HTC Blink feed. But I do actually find it pretty nice. It does give you some quick news, and you can always just do one swipe to get out of it, so it seems fine with me. And the rest of it's pretty stationary. You just swipe through your home screens, and then also the main menu for your apps is changed quite a bit. And it also does have a lot of Rogers and HTC modified apps. Like even if you look at the standard calculator, it has changed a bit for HTC. And they basically have modified every app to look where HTC has done with the Sense. So it just really fits in with, all the apps really fit in with the new update. And it does have a lot of bloatware built in with some extra HTC apps that you might even never use, like Parent Dashboard. But it still is okay. You can't delete them. That is a downside of this phone, of course. But if you get the Google edition, you won't have any of that. So overall, HTC Sense looks pretty, it's still recognizable as Android with your menu, all the apps you can get on Android. It still seems pretty recognizable with just a lot of custom widgets, a lot of tweaks to the design, and I think it does look pretty modern. If you're going for a comparison, TouchWiz looks very cartoonish compared to this. This looks like a really modern and sleek, probably an older version, like for a more mature. And it just does look really nice, and I actually personally like HTC Sense 5. And if you're getting this phone, you will probably like it. Do not underestimate the 4-megapixel camera included in the HTC One, as it produces some very colorful and bright photos that do look really sharp and crisp to the looking. As you can see, I took this photo in some pretty good lighting, and you can still see the details of the Android guy right here. You can zoom in and it still looks great. It doesn't get too blurry when you just zoom into the photo. It does capture a lot of detail with this camera, and especially with the image chip that HTC uses to process the images. And it also does 1080p video pretty well. Overall, this camera is very good, and I'd say it's one of the best in phone cameras, just through HTC's processing of the photos, and it's not a bad lens at all. It isn't actually a bad camera, although people may think it's bad because it's a 4-megapixel camera. With the dual speakers on front, which are HTC Boom Sound speakers, they do a good job, especially with call quality. Calling was very crisp and clear. I could hear the other person on the end of the line fine, and the boom speakers actually do a very good job and make sound so much brighter and louder than it should be. It even includes some bass, and it just does a really good job sounding much better than any other phone speaker I've ever used, and also much louder. Moving on to the final verdict of the HTC One, I'm giving it a 9.5 out of 10. This is the phone of the year in my opinion. It did a fantastic job. I absolutely love this phone. It just did so well. It outperformed any of the phones I've really used, and even the HTC Sense I actually really like. I've always loved HTC Sense, and it's always been a good operating system on top of Android. So 9.5 out of 10 seems pretty fair to me. This is hands down the best phone for build quality, anything. The photos it produces are good, and the speakers are absolutely amazing. If you are a social or you use content a lot, I would highly recommend this phone based on its speakers, and also BlinkFeed is very social, and it does have a lot of social built-in features. I'd like to thank Rogers for making this review possible by sending out the HTC One to me. Be sure to like this video, give me a thumbs up, tell me what you liked in the comments, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.